down. Restrictions and lockdowns are the order of the day, even here in Kenya. Well, things have changed slightly, but we are still not out of the woods yet. It is quite clear, according to scientists, that some of those who have been affected by the virus have ended up suffering longer from it. As we look at the stories that made it through the year 2021, I talked to some and filed this story. The hospital experience can be scary, especially if you have to stay in longer and away from your loved ones, as the pandemic continued to threaten the stability of the health sector due to many people testing positive for COVID-19 and others requiring hospitalization. The Ministry of Health gave room to home-based care.
Also now launched the home care system by discharging a substantial number of people from hospitals. From Kenyatta University, we have discharged some 338 persons. From Coast General Hospital, we have discharged some 212 persons, which means that we are probably about 600 persons who have been discharged from various hospitals to be taken.
There is no proper documentation of people who have or are experiencing long COVID. Dr. Gina Gitao, a COVID clinical manager, says that many people are experiencing long COVID without knowing.
After the initial infection, which we expect to clear after 2 weeks or so, some people end up having symptoms for weeks and months even after the infection. And there was no definitive term for it. But if you ask someone who's had COVID, they'll tell you, nowadays I get tired so quickly, I don't understand why. Or I used to run 10 kilometers and now I cannot even do one without getting tired. Some people will say that I could not taste very well, or I had an altered sense of taste or smell when I got COVID. It's never come back.
Months into fighting the virus in their bodies, common COVID-19 symptoms will still not go away.
It's been a journey of 6 months. So I started off with a cold at the end of January, and it just, nothing was working. I had the usual tangawizi, ginger tea, sleep, and I couldn't shake it off. Now I'm in a multi-generational household, so one of my family members just got really sick. It started off again like a cold, and he was completely out of it. Like, he never left the room. He was having sweats. And then my mother got sick and she just spiraled, and then I spiraled, and I was like, I don't know what this is. And then because my mother is a medical worker, she's like, this could be COVID.
I had a lot of hallucinations as well, and this really loud buzzing noise that was in my head, 24/7, that just, it would make me go crazy. Really bad nerve pain as well. So a lot of the times I would feel like my body was just burning from the inside under my skin. A lot of heart palpitations, chest issues, stomach issues. There were days you couldn't even lift your arms or your legs, or, walk to the kitchen or go to the bathroom. That was really difficult. Muscles and joints. The insomnia was really horrible, and I still struggle with that. I think now, this week I'm getting 2 to 3 hours a night of sleep, and it's, when you're already dealing with other symptoms, it's really difficult to even, get out of bed and function. And also, I think it also then sort of feeds into the depression and PTSD as well.
Modhoni and Washuka say that still challenges are afraid of coming out. Right now, it is more of an individual responsibility.
Even for the medical fraternity, is that if a patient comes to you with these symptoms, they're not malingering. It is actually a real thing. And that as we're treating them, we actually need to think about post-COVID clinics or long COVID clinics, so that we involve a whole panel of specialists. Some of them require active rehabilitation. So you might need to involve maybe a physiotherapist. The majority that come with anxiety disorders or mood disorders, you might actually require counseling or a psychologist or a psychiatrist to help you. The ones who require maybe some respiratory therapy are the ones who maybe still need maybe to be on a nebulizer or on oxygen. We need to teach them breathing exercises, etc.
The news that the World Health Organization has authorized the use of a malaria vaccine, RTSS, as one of the tools in the fight against malaria is a welcome relief for children living in sub-Saharan Africa, where the burden of the disease is highest. This 30-year journey, including a pilot program launched 4 years ago in Kenya, has culminated in what experts say is the beginning of the end for malaria.
Malaria has been with us for millennia, and the dream of a malaria vaccine has been a long-held but unattainable dream.
Suffering, anxiety, pain, hopelessness, and even death. These are perhaps some of the memories that anyone who has suffered a bout of malaria will have.
Alikuwa kwa hali mbaya sana. Sasa wakati nilikuja hapa jana, nikaenda kumuona daktari akanihudumia, akaniambia kuwa mtoto ako na malaria, itabidi alazwe.
Ask anyone from the malaria-prone regions and any fever is treated as malaria until proven otherwise.
Ilikuwa ni Friday, alianza kuzimia na kutetemeka na mwili kuwa moto. Nikamleta hapa siku jioni, akaniambia watibu, nikampea AL. Akapoa kiasi.
Pregnant women and children under 5 years bear the greatest brunt of malaria, but now the future is looking different.
WHO is recommending the broad use of the world's first malaria vaccine.
The RTSS vaccine, 30 years in the making, is the first vaccine against malaria, which experts say has changed the course of global health. Vaccination against this deadly disease is considered impactful, considering the malaria burden. New tools were urgently needed to fight malaria and protect the vulnerable at risk of illness and death. This WHO recommendation for wider use of the RTSS is a historic moment for global health and child health, especially in Africa.
This recommendation is based on results from an ongoing pilot program in Ghana, Kenya, and Malawi that has reached more than 800,000 children since 2019. This long-awaited malaria vaccine is a breakthrough for science, child health, and malaria control. Using this vaccine in addition to existing tools to prevent malaria could save tens of thousands of young lives each year.
In April 2017 in Nairobi, Kenya, stakeholders in malaria gathered to mark the start of this pilot program. At the time, Dr. Pedro Alonso, the director of WHO's Global Malaria Program, indicated that this was a step in the right direction.
The good news is that for the first time, we now have a malaria vaccine that will start being deployed and used in some pilot implementation projects in Kenya, in Ghana, and in Malawi.
In 2015, 13 of the 15 countries accounting for 80% of the estimated global cases of malaria were in Africa.
The vaccine reduces severe malaria by 30%, which experts say is a huge impact in the fight against malaria, a complex disease. Since 2019, more than 800,000 children have received at least one dose of RTSS in selected areas of Ghana, Kenya, and Malawi through the pilot program coordinated by WHO and supported by a range of in-country and international partners.
As the awareness on testicular cancer continues globally to promote self-examination in a bid to help capture this cancer at an early stage, doctors are calling for vigilance among men between the ages of 15 and 35 years who are said to be at risk of developing this type of cancer. Doctors say early diagnosis leads to better treatment and care, hence the need for self-awareness.
The corridors of this facility might not be new to 24-year-old Josie Ibrahim from Nakuru County. 4 years ago, he walked into this facility, oblivious of the diagnosis that was to come, following symptoms that gave him sleepless nights. However, today, his visits are only meant to check his progress.
Nilikuwa naugua mwili, nahisi vitu tofauti, kuumwa na kichwa, kutapika, lose weight. And unfortunately, unajua wanaume wanapougua wakati mwingine hawasemi, ni wasiri sana. So hiyo mwaka mzima nilikuwa mgonjwa sana, sikuwa najihisi vizuri. So ilipofika 2018 hapo mwisho, Oktoba, nilikuwa na uvimbe ambao ulikuwa unanipatia uchungu mwingi sana. So hapo ndipo niliongea na rafiki yangu mmoja anaitwa Zaid Kim. Nikamwambia, bro, mimi sihisi vizuri na niko na uvimbe.
And just like any other patient, the severity of the pain he experienced saw him consult a doctor on the possible cause of the pain on his scrotum region that caused him untold suffering.
After kumwona, akaniangalia na akasuggest kwamba tufanye upasuaji siku ambayo inafuata. Na hapo tukafanya malipo na nikafanya upasuaji. Nikatolewa ule uvimbe, ulikuwa mkubwa. 271 grams, hiyo ni kama nyama quarter. Unajua?
Josie is among men between the age of 15 and 35 years who are diagnosed with this type of cancer every year, contributing to an incidence of 1% of all types of cancers in men worldwide, as explained by Dr. Siwilis Mithe, an oncologist at the Nakuru Level 5 Hospital.
Testicular cancer is a type of cancer that mainly occurs in men. Worldwide incidence is approximated to be around 1% of all cancers in men. In Kenya, it's not a very common malignancy. And if we look at the GlobalCan 2020 data sheet, you realize that testicular cancer ranks 19th in terms of incidence, with around 35 new cancer cases recorded in the year 2020 and around 12 deaths. So out of around over 42,000 cases, new cancer cases recorded in Kenya last year, only 35 were testicular cancers. That accounts for 0.0008% of all cancers diagnosed in the country.
Since testicular cancer is a rare cancer, making a diagnosis involves a process, and these include a physical examination, radiology investigations, and lab tests.
So the clinician confirms that the swelling is actually on the testes. There are a lot of other lumps that happen on the epididymis. So those are not very worrying because most of them are benign. But if the lump is actually on the testicle itself or involves both the testicle as well as the epididymis, then it behoves you to do an ultrasound scan. The ultrasound scan is what we use for diagnosing testicular cancer. So if it shows you a mass within the substance of the testicle, which has a blood supply, then that is a testicular cancer until proven otherwise.
Whereas pregnancy test kits detect a hormone in the blood and urine produced by developing placenta to determine whether one is pregnant or not, Dr. Mburugu says the same kit can turn positive if used by someone who has testicular cancer, because the cancer produces the same hormone that the kit detects.
Which detects the earliest pregnancies within a few days of conception will be a blood test. A chemical that is produced by the placenta once you become pregnant, called human chorionic gonadotropin, or beta HCG. And this chemical is found in both blood and urine.
He, however, notes that not all cancers will produce this kind of hormone, though one who has undergone treatment can use the kit as an indicator of the cancer's response to treatment.